Coal mining on Vancouver Island is nothing new. From 1880 up until 1960, there were coal mines in Nanaimo and here in the Cumberland area. At one time, over the years, there was about 8 shafts operating in Cumberland. These communities got their drinking water from lakes and rivers, fed by rainfall and snowmelt, so that was never an issue. Mining in the old days is a lot different than it is today. The miners in the old days were instructed to leave the waste rock behind in the shafts, so there was only about 10% waste brought to the surface. Behind me here is one of the piles you'll find in the Cumberland area, and it's really not that big considering that they were mining here for 80 years. In a modern operation, especially if they're mining metallurgical coal, there can be as much as 70% waste brought to the surface. In a modern mine, as part of their remediation, they'll actually bury the waste rock in pits or old mine shafts and cover that to mitigate acid mine drainage. But there's a lot of waste rock that has to be dealt with at the surface. The coal from Cumberland was brought here to Union Bay, about 10 kilometers away on the east coast of Vancouver Island. The coal was brought through a washer plant about 100 meters behind me here. You can't see it now, it's all gone. But it was the only washer plant on Vancouver Island. And they got their water for the plant from Hart Creek. The locals call it Washer Creek. And from what I can tell, it was a fairly low-tech operation. The water, the coal would have been brought into the plant in the boxcars, and the water would have just soaked the coal, cleaning off the dust and the residue. The water would have been collected underneath the slurry, a combination of contaminated water, fine material, and that slurry was transported about 100 meters out to Union Bay Point, and that created the Union Bay coal hills. The community of Union Bay was never affected by this for their drinking water because their drinking water came from Langley Lake, a surface water source fed by snowmelt and rainwater. So here's the Union Bay coal piles. It's quite a big area, and they haven't been doing anything here since 1960, and as you can see, it's still a fairly barren landscape. Nothing's growing right on these piles. And these piles are actually made up of quite fine material. As you can see, the whole pile is made up of this fine material. And what that is, it's the leftover residue from the washing plant.
And then if you go farther towards Courtney, you get more into a steeper ground, which is obvious coal hill material. And no, it's pretty devoid of life out there. It's not a lot, it's a lot of silty stuff gets kicked up in the currents and things like that. And very devoid. You know, I don't see a lot of life out there. It's, as a matter of fact, on an aquaculture standpoint, you know, you wouldn't even, there would be no on the bottom aquaculture going on. You're not gonna raise anything on the ocean floor out there. You know, one thing too, though, Ed, I'd like to point out, you know, it's there, you know, that's just strictly sort of around the immediate area of the coal hills. When you start to travel farther north or farther south, you see lots of sea life. You know, there's reefs, there's urchins, there's scallops. You know, there's out on, you know, some of the surrounding islands. It's you know, teeming with shellfish, aquatic life. You know, the typical Canadian Pacific Ocean, that you know, beautiful pristine waters.